The Pokemon anime is something that has reached so many people. Not too long ago, it celebrated its 28th anniversary, which is just something that's crazy to think about. But regardless, it has brought a lot of joy, happiness, excitement, hype, and many, many other things to all the people who've watched it. From the intense gym battles to the heartfelt moments, I think it's safe to say that many of us are glad that the Pokemon anime exists. However, taking a step back from all of that, there is a bit of a glaring controversy with the Pokemon anime that has been the topic of a lot of discussion and discourse, especially more so since the end of Journeys and the beginning of Pokemon Horizons. Which is why I, Professor Caspian, am here to discuss it. Of course, I'm talking about the writing quality. While certain moments tend to stand out, the Pokemon anime isn't necessarily known for its outstanding writing most of the time. This lack of satisfaction with the writing, or curiosity in what could have been, has led many people to go off and craft stories of their own. And the community of people who engage in the art of the Pokemon What If writing is certainly an interesting one to look at. So, without further ado, let's get into today's lecture. To preface, this video will be a bit more of a personal one than the last video. My Hero Academia Vigilantes is something that, while I love, is something that's not been with me for nearly as long as the Pokemon anime and the Pokemon What If has, and I sure as heck have a lot to say about them now. It'll be more of a general commentary with references to different parts of the community and what it takes. But I wanted to start by talking about the reasons in canon why people are unsatisfied and what exactly they are going on to try and fix or rewrite. Because the Pokemon anime is very long and has been going on for over 2 decades, and while I haven't been around as long as the anime has, I certainly have seen a lot of people who've gotten upset with it. And in this community, people tend to get very heated over specific aspects of the show that they particularly dislike or have something to say about. And look, hey, I understand. I admit there are things with the anime that have definitely gotten under my skin more than it probably should have. But, to be honest, the story of Ash and Pikachu, along with all of their friends, means a lot to me. And even I can't help but wish that things went different. Like... For those who aren't familiar with the idea of a floating timeline is a story where the main characters, as well as the main settings, are stuck in a continuous present. Characters age very little or not at all, and time, while it may seem to pass day to day, does not pass much in the grand scheme of the world. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Ash has basically been the anchor of a floating timeline for 25 years, and that he was the main character of the anime. Well, at some points, he may have looked a different age, XY. Up until the very last series, Pokemon Journeys, he was still confirmed to be 10 years old, the age that he was at the very start of the anime 25 years prior. This has left a lot of people upset with the way his character was handled. Many people wanted to age along with him and see him grow from an immature child to a more mature young adult. Ash being older would come with a whole host of new ideas and innovative characterization. There are some who disagree with this and believe Ash staying 10 years old was a good thing, and I do see that side of the argument, especially as the anime was intended by the writers to be like an endless summer story of a relatable young boy. But here, we're talking about for the purposes of writing and storytelling, and there have definitely been instances of this removal of floating timeline with Ash that we've seen in Pokemon What Ifs. For example, a writer and artist who's been in the game for a very long time, Meza, has championed one of the most popular iterations of a timeline where Ash grows up in the Another Road Repaved series. As I mentioned previously, scrapping the floating timeline allows for a writer to expand upon the stories told with Ash and Pikachu. In this case, we start to grow up with Ash as he takes on familiar challenges and also matures alongside his Pokemon and friends. In this example, we also see another change in the regular formula of the anime. While in the anime, romance is sometimes hinted at, we never get any confirmation of romantic feelings in relation to Ash. In Mez's writing, we see Ash and Dawn develop romantic feelings for each other as they grow up together in a changing world. Of course, I can't be the one to describe it best, so if you are interested in it, please do check out the stories. They're very awesome and I highly recommend them. And if I were to put input on this trope, I think that if the floating timeline were to be removed, I would approach it as follows. Ash would obviously start out as 10 years old, as other kids do when they become trainers. He would age 2 years during the original series, and be turning 12 to 13 between Advanced Generation and Diamond and Pearl. In Black and White, he would be 13. In X and Y, he would be 14. In Sun and Moon, he would be 15. And with a bit of a skip, 17 years old in Journeys, so that he could turn 18 as Pokemon Journeys ends, sending him off to be an adult as a new generation of kids begin watching. I think that, from what I've seen, as well as the example I've provided, people have done a pretty good job at removing the floating timeline from Ash in a way where they can create their own spins on a uniquely aged-up character. There are many, many more examples of this, and I strongly urge you, if you're interested, to search for yourself and see what you can find. It's a theme that definitely represents the community's desire for a newer and fresher kind of Ash, and I think these writers have been successful in creating these unique characters. While the previous section on the floating timeline was more of a general rewrite over a longer period of time, a canon divergence is when a writer uses canon up until a certain point, whether almost all of it or almost none of it, until moving away and creating their own original story. In the scope of Pokemon, this could mean a few things. It could mean a story where Ash wakes up late like in normal canon, but instead receives a new starter, Pokemon, that's not Pikachu and goes on a completely different journey. It could also mean a story where Ash, after traveling through Unova, takes on a completely different challenge than the canon story of Kalos and Alola. There are so many opportunities for a canon divergence story in the Pokemon anime that I could literally go on forever based on what I've seen. This method has been used by those who might like some aspect of the story but have a much different version for other parts. And so they will choose the parts of the story that they like, and then put their own spin on what they would like to see after. Similarly, there are those who harness the power of post-canon to make their story. This would mean that they acknowledge the full canon story from beginning to end, for the most part depending on each circumstance, allowing the end to take place. Their story would then pick up where canon leaves off, and they would create a new story for the main character to carry on. For Ash, this would mean, for example, a story beyond becoming the world champion, something more for him after the canon story comes to a close. To put this into the context of an example, there are a few stories I could highlight that make use of these tropes. The first one, you may already know, as it is one of the most popular fanfiction series in the entire fandom, the Ancient Verse. Crafted by Epicocity, the Ancient Verse makes use of canon divergence during Ash's Kalos journey. Instead of having him just make it to the league and deal with Team Flare, he enters a tournament facing and being joined by new and old friends, which eventually leads him down a massive conspiracy set forth by the unused concepts for the anime, such as the Delta episode characters. This canon divergence allows for Epicocity to move forward through an entire series, still using canon locations like Alola, Galar, Paldea, and Hisui, however, putting his own spin on them and writing the story the way he wants to, including things like Amore shipping, this ship between Ash and Serena, and the continuation of characters like Clement and Bonnie into new regions. This series, for so many reasons, was, is, and continues to be iconic, as Epicocity's dedication to the crafting of this overarching story was ever present and an intriguing tale for the readers. Keep in mind, this series began all the way back in 2016 and still technically continues to this day, almost a decade later. That enough should show the kind of dedication I'm talking about. Talk about a use of canon divergence. Another story that one may not be as popular as the Ancient Verse series, but is definitely getting there and still piques my interest for various reasons, is called Paragon. It is written by Crocodile11 on AO3, or Archive of Our Own, and is still receiving weekly updates, and utilizes the other side of the trope I am talking about, post-canon. However, it also incorporates some smaller changes here and there, like with Ash's journeys in Kalos and Alola. What it does is it takes Ash winning the World Championships, keeps that canon, before setting him off on a completely new journey full of mysteries, secrets, and powerful trainers. I don't want to spoil it, it's a pretty damn good story if I've ever seen one, and it provides an interesting continuation of Ash's character if he ever went down a much different path after the ending of the series. All in all, I think that there have been many successful stories that have focused on changing the direction of canon or providing an add-on to what we already got as canon. Simple as that. More recently, people may be more familiar with this concept. Fix It is the direction that the writers take when they want to, quote-unquote, fix something that canon does which they disagree with. It's sometimes like a canon divergence, but sometimes people will try to keep their version in line with canon, just with some small specific changes. I warrant this as its own section mainly because of one thing. The reason I said that more recently people probably know about this is because of the insane surge in prevalence of fix-it or rewrite stories after Pokemon Journeys came out. A lot of people were upset with the way that the story went. It seemed like more than usual, especially when they found out that it was going to be Ash's last. I definitely fall into that category of thinking that it could have been much better than it had gone, or were to have gone differently. The term Pokemon Journeys rewrite actually haunts me because of how many times I've heard it. And for what it's worth, I have seen so many rewrite journeys and other series and make it something really interesting. Whether or not they are complete, I want to shout some of them out to show my appreciation for them and why I enjoy them. To talk about the Journeys rewrites, I'll just have to narrow them down by name because of how many there are. Writers and YouTubers like Xanolith, Electro Pikachu, Trainer Malik, even Curlblitz, and more have all made content, some more than others, on what Pokemon Journeys would have looked like. From keeping Go and improving upon Ash's World Championships journey, to moving the main location to Galar, to giving Go a completely new goal and journey, and so much more. They all take different parts of the same series and give it their own charm, always bringing something special and new to the table. Adding in new ships, like Tigerhawk does in his To the Sky series, and again, so many examples. Similarly, other YouTubers and creators like Dollywop, Ronin Charizard, the Nobody Volt have taken upon rewriting specific series, or even the entire Pokemon anime as that. Starting completely from the ground up and creating an entire new storyline with the character of Ash and usually Pikachu alongside him. These kinds of fix-its are unique in their own way with how much source material they have to work with, and really no restrictions whatsoever, since they are beginning with nothing. Another category that I'd like to shout out that I don't even know if I can give examples of because it's something that's such a generally broad topic is the category of alternate universes. And by this, I specifically mean where they take the Pokemon anime and they maybe insert elements of another fandom or another series and create an AU version of these characters, such as, oh, I don't know, I'll just come up with one off the top of my head. What if Ash Ketchum went to UA High School in My Hero Academia? That's an AU. Or what if Ash joined forces with characters from Jujutsu Kaisen and Pokemon and they created their own story or something like that? I'm sure you understand what I mean when I say AU. That it also has endless possibilities. What do they all have in common? Well, they're each smaller parts of a bigger puzzle. None of them could do everything, but when you bring them together, you get so many unique perspectives that go in their own way, and over time, we get what I like to call a historiography. For those who don't know what historiography is, it's a collection of historical writing with the purpose of seeing the trends, themes, and ideas that are developed over time. Looking out at how older stories were written and make their way into the modern day, like the Ancient Verse series compared to how newer Journeys rewrites like Trainer Malik's that are being updated to this day, You get to see just how creative people can be and the way that the art of Pokemon Anime What If writing has changed over time and what makes it so interesting and special. I know this is me talking about a very, very niche field of writing, but it's something that genuinely means a lot to me. I know it may sound bizarre, but it was a major part of who I was growing up, and no matter what, I've never lost my interest in it, whether that was reading or writing it. And I'm sorry if that sounds sappy, but it's the truth. It was what got me into writing in the first place, heck, and a hobby that I would have never expected to develop. I still remember the first piece of writing I had ever actually published, considering a lot of what I had written previously stayed quiet and I never published it. Of all things, I think it was an Ash x Chloe story that I got the idea for after seeing a bit of fan art. But that's what makes it so interesting. How ideas can come out of almost thin air and develop into something incredible. I'm sure many of the more popular and long-term stories I've mentioned today just started out as an idea. Through the passion and love for the Pokemon anime and its characters, they were able to make an entire new work of art out of it. It may not be a huge field, and it doesn't have the largest community, but for what it's worth, it's something that I'm glad I was able to become a part of and hope to continue working with in the future. Of course, there are so many more things to talk about, but this video would be multiple hours long and basically turn into a video essay. Something that I'm really not ready to do just yet. Now, that's going to be it. Hopefully this lecture was interesting to you all watching, and if so, I really appreciate you making it to the end of the video, if you're still here. If you want to show your support, do make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, if you want to. And maybe leave a comment giving your own opinions on the series. I'd love to hear all of your feedback. My socials are in the description. If you ever have any questions, my Telegram is there too. Besides that, this is going to be it for today. Please, enjoy the rest of your day, drink water, and one more thing. Next time, Go, a misused masterpiece? Continuing with the Pokemon anime, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to the character of Go. So much controversy, yet so much overshadowed good and potential. He might just be one of my favorites of all time. Please don't flame me for this one. You'll just have to find out next time.